watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN. And now back to TSPN News with Tom Slivick. Comprehensive news, because in today's world, you need more than just sound bites. TSPN, streaming on the World Wide Web and on demand at tspntv.com. Well, hi, everyone, and welcome back. Tom Slivick with Neil Peacock from ACTC. Neil, I asked you, is the Pine Grove project in jeopardy at this time? And I guess along a corollary with that would be, are some of these other projects or cities, Jackson, Ione, are they asking to be looked at again? Tell us where we stand.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly, we all have a lot of projects that we'd like to see funded. Okay, so that's a fair question that everybody, I would expect, would be asking. Now, in terms of the direct question about is Pine Grove in jeopardy, I want to make sure that it's clear for your viewers the action that was taken and what that all entails, and what actions have not yet been taken. Okay, so in the Commission's October meeting, they directed staff to move forward with programming the funds we have currently available to complete design and right-of-way for the full project. So, make a long story short, we have more than $5 million available. More than $3 million was allocated in 2012, and we have another $2 million available now. Based on our budgets and so forth, that gives us enough to complete design and complete right-of-way, making the project shelf-ready. Okay.
Shovel-ready for Pine Grove's project.
Grove, exactly. Pine Grove would be shovel-ready. Okay, but now there has been no commitment made in regards to funding construction of the project. And then that gets to the question about other projects, other priorities.
So we have two ways of looking at the thing, much like a lot of government. First of all, the idea is good. We go for it in concept. We vote. That's what we want to do. But then the next step is the actual funding of it. So nothing can get done without the funding.
That's right. And
is that where the hang-ups seem to be at this moment? And if there are hang-ups, what are they?
They're difficult questions is what they are. And this is the challenges that the Commission will be grappling with through the workshops that they'll be having on the Regional Transportation Plan update. Again, that's the big picture view. And that we have this Pine Grove project over here, but we got all these other projects over there. Now, what are we going to do? Okay. And so through that process, we're going to be talking about various funding strategies that you could use to deliver Pine Grove project, as well as other projects, as well as their relative priority.
Could I ask a question at this time? Yeah. The other projects, say Jackson or other part of the county, could be more than just Jackson and Ione asking for things. Are these for the big project, like for a big picture project, or could it be for a smaller project in Jackson, say a particular intersection?
It could be for both. Right now,
so we're no longer talking about, in a way, that Jackson was standing in line for a bypass, and Ione was standing in line for a way of fixing their thoroughfare through there for trucks and things, and Pine Grove was looking for a faster way to move traffic through Pine Grove. Those aren't just the three projects. We have other projects or other concepts that are
That's right. And similar, in a certain way, the Jackson corridor is very similar to the Pine Grove corridor in that there's this big corridor, and within that corridor there's a whole bunch of what could be considered little projects. Okay, so that's an example of funding strategy. Okay, for example, as we talked about in the November meeting and the October meeting, you can basically fund the Pine Grove project through numerous funding sources. You could phase certain segments of it over time. You could build the whole dang thing in one shot. Of course, you need $30 million. Now, given that $30 million is a challenge, and given that $30 million would largely preclude other projects, one of the things that the Commission will be considering is whether it wants to phase or segment or target individual components for different funding programs.
Let me ask you a question now. It seemed to me like it was looked at like, we'll do this big project, we'll do this big project, we'll do this project. They're not all the same size, but we'll take them on, and people will stand or get like in a queue. Jackson will be, I believe it was considered maybe a higher priority before Pine Grove, but for lots of reasons, it couldn't get their project together, couldn't get a consensus, or whatever. I might have already said that, so I don't want to backtrack. But so it seemed to me at that time, in my mind, we were going to be taking on a project at a time. That's no longer necessarily the case?
Well,
Or
that is,
was that
is
even
that
never
is- that-
necessarily the case?
Well, that sort of was, but this is exactly the challenge that the commission will be grappling with through these RTP workshops.
Okay.
In the past, it was, quite frankly, if we could loosely describe it as a winner-take-all, first come, first served sweepstakes. Okay, I'm just using some general language there. The Sutter Creek Amador City bypass was a big project that took all of our money, and that was our main focus. And that previous era of looking at big bypass projects, 20, 30, 40, 50 million dollars, we're in a new time. And we're going to have to get more inventive. We're going to have to get more creative. We're going to have to be more strategic about how we prioritize our projects, not only in relation to funding opportunities, but in relation to each other. Okay, and so that's basically the entire world of transportation funding that the commission will be
So it
working
would
on.
seem then, in theory, Pine Grove's possibility of building that at one shot or one project is in jeopardy.
I think it's prudent
being
for
questioned.
it is being questioned, undoubtedly.
Okay.
Undoubtedly. We have an advisory committee on the RTP update, and to make a long story short, they are making a bunch of recommendations to the commission about this whole issue of being more strategic about how we fund our transportation
Could you give us a
projects.
quick an idea? I hope you can. Who's on that committee?
Yeah, of course. All of the cities in the county
Okay.
have staff on the committee. We have our Social Services Transportation Advisory Council. We have people representing elders, environmental and conservation groups, local and regional business groups, such as the Amador Business Council, and so forth. So we have a relatively large cycling and alternative transportation interests. So we have a pretty large spectrum of stakeholders that are involved in the RTP process. And believe it or not, they've all reached consensus on the recommendations moving forward to the ACTC. All right. So now, what the ACTC itself thinks about these recommendations, they will have to go through this deliberative process.
Okay, we
as
have
well.
a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes left for. Take us to the meeting on the I believe the 24th, maybe the 23rd of this month, and not this month, last month of November. And what happened there? Where are we now?
Sure. Well, a lot of the questions, the difficult questions I'm bringing up here about competing priorities,
Right.
funding constraints, and how and so forth. Is it okay that we let one project suck up all of our money for the next 20 years, or is there a different way of doing it, or is that project our highest priority? All of these things basically culminated when one of our commissioners, Commissioner Ploss, made a motion to reconsider the commission's direction in October to move forward with getting Pine Grove shelf ready. Again, that's committing about $5 million through calendar year 2020 to get the project
Okay.
shovel ready.
So that was that $5 million.
That's
so you
right.
used that,
That's
all that
exactly
money
right.
for Pine Grove.
That's
Okay.
exactly right. And there's a bunch of really
Okay.
difficult questions that Mr. Ploss, very, very legitimate questions, important questions, the questions that we naturally have to address through this whole RTP workshop process that I've been describing. And so that raised some awareness of the issue. It helped kind of set, in my mind as staff, it helped set the parameters for all of the issues, both commissioner issues, issues of other supervisors and city council members, of community members on one side or the other, all of the issues that we will have to address through these RTP workshops.
Did it bring
So
up
it's very,
more
very
than just
beneficial.
questions? Did it bring up some answers as well?
Well, it clarified that the commission wants to move forward with getting the project shovel ready, and that everybody involved, is going to have to take a long, hard look at these questions, the questions that Supervisor Ploss brought up, that I've been mentioning in this interview, in this RTP workshop process. Again, the RTP is our master plan, as it were. RTP is not about one project, it's about all of our projects. It's about all of our funding, and more specifically, how little funding there actually is.
Okay, 2 minutes. Bring us up to date on what your direction is now. With that meeting,
Very good.
what do you? Go ahead.
Very good. So after the motion for reconsideration was heard, wherein we got a lot of questions, comments, and concerns, the commission decided to move forward with their direction as of October. And that direction, again, is to program the funds that we have currently available. It's more than $5 million to get the project shovel ready. So that's what I'm doing.
Okay, so
As a side note,
okay,
I'm also, for the purposes of these RTP workshops, working on an innovative funding strategy for the Pine Grove project. Okay, it's basically something that we've always been thinking about from the very beginning. Right now, the project is in 3 segments that are about $8 million, $16 million, $5 million, so it's about $30 million. But those 3 segments we might have to break down further. We might have to have Caltrans build this part. We might have to go after safe routes to school for this part, and go after the active transportation program for the sidewalk. So we're going to have to get more and more
sources
exactly,
as well.
exactly,
Okay.
and that's really the future of transportation funding. Is we're going to have to get more strategic and more inventive about how we build our transportation projects, given how constrained funding availability is.
And there's a consensus with this approach at this time?
Absolutely, and there's a heck of a lot more information and nuances and details to share, so hopefully your viewers who might be interested will attend some of our RTP workshops and become more informed and more involved on these sort of difficult issues.
It's getting more complicated, and it seems like things that seem to be set never are until it's done. It's not done until it's done.
Hopefully I've clarified at least a couple things for you.
I think you did. Thanks very much for coming by, and thanks for watching today's News in Depth.
Thank you for having me.
Stay with us.
You're watching Amador County's #1 news and sports leader, TSPN.